Hello there. Sirius Black is one of the most tragic and compelling characters in the Harry Potter series. From his turbulent upbringing in the House of Black to his wrongful imprisonment in Azkaban, every stage of his life is marked by loss, sacrifice, and just injustice. And yet, through it all, he remains fiercely loyal, resilient, and deeply human. Flawed, but undeniably noble in his convictions. His journey is one of defiance, love, and the unfulfilled hope of a life that could have been. In this video, we'll explore why Sirius Black stands out as my favorite Marauder, examining his hardships, his strengths, his flaws, and his thematic importance to the Harry Potter story. Sirius Black was born into the prestigious House of Black, a wizarding family as old as it was arrogant, and to a family with a decidedly pure-blood mania. His parents were obsessed with blood purity. I mean, they openly supported Voldemort and took immense pride when their youngest son later became a Death Eater. Any other young child would quickly adopt their parents' behavior, as we see with one Draco Malfoy, as he just parrots his parents' beliefs throughout the novels. But Sirius instead displays a strength of character that he'd carry with him throughout the story, as he openly rebelled against his parents' belief system and actively looked for ways to stand out. In fact, when he was 16 years old, he was cast out from his family, making him an orphan much like Harry. Though, unlike Harry, he's more of an orphan by choice than necessarily one out of circumstance. Instead, Sirius finds his true family at Hogwarts, where, along with James, he's hailed as one of the smartest students to walk through the school. Finding out about Lupin's affliction of lycanthropy, Sirius, James, and Peter perform dangerous magic to transform themselves into animals, in the hopes of accompanying Remus during his transformations, to provide just a sense of comfort and family, while getting up to a bit of mischief as well. Unlike Sirius's biological family, his newly found family accept him for who he is. And, despite the occasional bouts of bullying, mainly due to their arrogance and, their faith in their own brilliance, they form a lasting bond of friendship, trust, and shared values. Bond, however, is shattered when, at Sirius's own suggestion, Peter is made the Potter's secret keeper and promptly betrays them to Voldemort, instigating the collapse of everything Sirius holds dear. A betrayal Sirius takes to heart, not only because he would have died for his friends, a sentiment he fully believed they all shared equally, but because he suggested Wormtail be the Potter's secret keeper in the name of even greater security. A fact that simply twists the knife even further. Sirius is blinded by rage and goes after Wormtail, who is able to get the better of him, leaving Sirius not only framed for the murder of his best friends, but also with a mind that is slowly crumbling away into madness due to the weight of it all. He's so distraught over what has happened. I'm not convinced that if he was given a trial, which he wasn't, it would have gone any differently, as Sirius blamed himself so wholeheartedly for the deaths of his best friends. He probably would have said he was as guilty as he felt. Azkaban is a horrible existence, even to wizards, as the Dementors ensure a constant cold and damp environment, torturing the prisoners not through any physical means, but by making them relive their worst memories over and over again in a constant loop that is known to drive even the hardiest man insane. The only thing that keeps Sirius sane during his 12 long years in Azkaban is the knowledge that he's innocent. His innocence and his love for James and Harry. And once he detects that there's even a hint of danger around Harry, he breaks out of the prison and searches for Wormtail with a single-minded fury and doggedness. However, after proving his innocence to Harry, Wormtail escapes, and Sirius is forced to go on the run again. It's not long after that Sirius, finding Harry in danger again, returns and subsists on rats and mice before Voldemort's return forces him into house arrest by Dumbledore's orders in the very house that represents so much of what Sirius despises. Here, he's left to stew, a man of action made to sit out of the fight while others put their life on the line. It breeds a sense of desperation within Sirius. Desperation to escape a house he never thought he'd have to return to. Desperation to aid those fighting a titanic clash against tyranny until he can take no more. Rushing to Harry's aid one last time, he loses his life to his cousin of all people, in a move that seems to say to Sirius, as a character, if nothing else, you cannot escape your family. Throughout his life, Sirius faced some of the worst trials any of us could possibly imagine. And yet, he faced these trials with a resilience and strength that few of us could ever hope to match. He refused to conform to his family's twisted belief system, despite, supplication providing a relief to the tumultuous home life. He lost 12 years of his life to a prison that allowed no happy thoughts to exist and drove him half mad. He endured the haunting memories of his family's past injustices at Dumbledore's orders in a house arrest that must have seemed like torture for a man who had already gone through the vilest torture known to man. And yet, throughout it all, he never let go of the love and loyalty that bound him to James Potter, and by extension, Harry. He rushes to Harry's aid at the slightest provocation, and was willing to endure unimaginable conditions, rats and mice people, just to be a reassuring presence near his godson. He never complained to Harry once about any of it, choosing instead to endure the physical and emotional scars of his hard life as best he could, on his own, without the majority of his friends there to help him shoulder the burden. The friendship and trust Sirius lost the night James Potter died is a bond few could stand to lose. Yet at every turn, every fork in the road of destiny, Sirius did the best with what he had, and did everything in his power to make the right choice. But, he wasn't a perfect man, not by any stretch of the imagination. They say even the strongest survive only with their scars to bear, and, Sirius was no exception. He was moody, impulsive, hot-headed, and reckless. Traits which saw him cast aside caution to let out his pent-up emotion, help Harry either physically or emotionally, or just rush to the aid of those in need. His relationship with Harry took on a more brotherly bond as the story progressed, seeing Sirius kind of come to regard Harry as, the best friend he'd lost, and, maybe leading him to ignore some of the more paternal responsibilities that he was now tasked with shouldering. One of my favourite additions the movies have ever made is the scene where Harry disarms Lucius Malfoy, and in the heat of battle, without even thinking about it, Sirius cries out,
"Nice one, James!"
Oh, that single line speaks volumes about how highly Sirius regarded James, how he sees Harry as meeting those lofty standards, and the ultimate tragedy of Sirius's loss. In that single moment, Sirius's past and present collide. His grief, his love for James, and his blurred vision of Harry as the friend he lost. Some criticize Sirius for being immature, but he grew up in a household filled with turmoil, with a war looming over his youth. A war he proceeded to fight in at the age of 18, He then lost most of his young adulthood to a crime he didn't commit, as well as the majority of his friends. How many of us would have done half as well given the circumstances? Sirius's thematic importance is felt throughout the story of Harry Potter, as his journey kind of mirrors Harry's to an extent. Both are orphans who lost their families, Sirius to choice and belief, Harry to tragedy, but both were able to find new ones to support and guide them on their journeys. Sirius also serves to show the audience the costs and the injustices of war, as he's wrongly imprisoned, demonized by the public he's fighting to protect, and ultimately killed as an outcast to wizard kind. The role of an outcast is one Harry will become intimately familiar with as the wizarding world turns against him in the year preceding Sirius's death. Sirius, much like Harry, is wronged by pretty much all sides in this war. I mean, the Ministry considers him an escaped convict and won't listen to reason. Voldemort and the Death Eaters all want him dead. And Dumbledore, despite believing in Sirius's innocence and having his best interests and protection in mind, confines him to a house he hates, knowing that it simply is increasing his recklessness. Harry and Sirius represent the fight against destiny and expectations. But where Sirius rails against the choices and destinies thrust upon him by others, Harry has no choice but to embrace his, as it's only through embracing his destiny that he can defeat Voldemort. But Sirius also shows what Harry could become if he doesn't temper his own hot-headedness and, allow his anger and resentment to just leave him unaffected. I believe that Sirius's greatest thematic importance is the hope he gives Harry. A hope that ultimately goes unfulfilled. The hope of a loving family with a man who knew his parents. It's a hope pretty much ignited as soon as Harry realizes Sirius is innocent, and he then proceeds to offer Harry a home away from the Dursleys where he and Harry can be happy. This hope keeps Harry going in some of the darkest periods of his young life, but ultimately, it's a hope that can never be filled. As long as Voldemort still walks the earth in some way, Harry can never be happy. He can never have normal. Sirius's death, man, it really serves to shatter the lost illusion of a normal life for Harry, proving that as long as Voldemort lives, happiness is just a fleeting dream. Sirius Black's story is one of tragedy, resilience, and unbreakable loyalty. He defies the family that raised him, endures a fate worse than death, and still fights for what he believes in, right up until the moment he falls. His presence in Harry's life is a beacon of hope, a glimpse of the family Harry never had, only for that hope to be cruelly taken away. In many ways, Sirius represents what Harry could have become under different circumstances. A man burdened by loss and injustice, struggling to move forward. And yet, despite his flaws, his mistakes, his impulsiveness, Sirius remains one of the most fiercely loving and loyal characters in the entire series. He's a marauder, a rebel, and above all, a man who never stopped fighting for the people he loved. I can never expound enough just how much I love Sirius Black. He's genuinely, I think, my favorite character in the entire series. Gary Oldman's casting, perfection. The writing for Sirius throughout the novels, perfection. The movies additions, perfection. He's got so many killer lines in the movies, and there is something about the character that just resonates with me. His death was the one that hit me the most. Not Dobby's, not Fred's. Fred's was a close second. Sirius, man. Sirius.